This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Every day on the job there's a moment. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. Where everything hangs in the balance. A loose bolt, a missed clip, a bad assumption. Or maybe the opposite of choice made right. The right PP, the right lockout, the right conversation at just the right time. Some folks call that luck. Here on Safety Wars we call it something else. The kiss of safety. The quiet moment where a safe choice gives you another sunrise, another paycheck, another night with the people you love. And the truth, no policy, no regulation, no binder full of procedures means a thing unless you live it, unless your team lives it, unless safety isn't a chore, it's a culture, a war we fight every day, one small decision at a time.
Hi, this is Jim from Safety Wars. Before we start the program, I want to make sure everyone understands that we often talk about OSHA and EPA citations, along with some other regulatory actions from other agencies, legal cases, and criminal activity. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Proposed fines are exactly that, and they are often litigated, reduced, or vacated. We use available public records, news accounts, and press releases. We cannot warranty or guarantee the details of any of the stories we share, since we are not directly involved with these stories, at least not most of the time. Enjoy the show.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hello. It's been a while. It's been a week. So what did you think about our last show about New Jersey politics and our friend Paul Danielczak here? So, anyway, I don't know. I'm trying out a new platform. Seems to be working so far. Alright, we're not getting the echo here or anything else, so that's what. So you hear me going back and forth, that's what it is. Double check the audio here. With this, I think I got it figured out. Yeah. How's your Thanksgiving? I tell you, ours is pretty good here, and no, it's good. I finally worked out. Now I know on the Food Network. Now I'm interested in this camera here. I know on the Food Network they always say if you want to make homemade cranberry sauce, it's very simple. Don't. And it's like, well, what do you mean, Jim? No, don't. Why? Because it never turns out right. And, according to them at least. So, what I ended up doing, though, sorry about the camera here. What I ended up doing was, so I had a family friend stay over here, right, for dinner, right? So one of my friends doesn't have any family in the area, so we've been hosting her for Thanksgiving dinner for the last 9 years, 10 years or so. And she says, Jim, I really like your cranberry sauce. Why don't you make it again? Try it out. Do it. I said, well, last time, me and you were like the only ones eating it and, blah, 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 blah. And she says, no, try it again. See how you do. So I ended up making homemade cranberry sauce. It was actually really good. And actually everybody ate it, right? Which was different than last time. Let me get this camera straightened out here. It's causing me agita. Keeps on pointing up at the sky. You're not at me. So, And that's it. So what we're going to attempt to do is have 2 programs this week, and then go to find out what we're doing on Friday here with everything. We may be doing it live. We may not be doing it live. I have to see. But what ended up, it was good. And no family arguments. Friday, we ended up putting up, and I wanted to be on the air, but it didn't happen. But what we ended up doing was we put up, we actually cut down a tree on Friday. And then Saturday, we ended up putting up, let's see, I love Christmas trees. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got a Christmas tree for my aunt, the nun, in the Immaculate Conception Convent. So that was 1. On Thursday, we did that. She couldn't make it for dinner, so we delivered it and put up that. And then we had on Saturday 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're partially done on the 6th in our home studio there. And we'll be broadcasting from them there sometime next week, God willing. I use it on my days off to deal with clients and things of that nature. And they always get a kick out of that. So that's what we do. We put up Christmas trees this weekend, and then had some R&R, and then we're back at fighting that safety war one decision at a time. We always talk about don't do this and don't do that and don't do this and don't do that. Remember, there's a lot of positive choices that happen out there. When you make the positive choice, when your employees or whoever you're in charge of makes a positive choice, just like the song says, right? Making that choice, positive choice, making that decision to have a good conversation on how to do the work safely, how to show up prepared, and everything else that goes into safe work. That's good. And remember, more safe work goes on than unsafe work, usually. If you hire people and all of a sudden everybody goes out there not doing unsafe, they're acting unsafely, that's an issue. Let's just say that's a major issue. Now, weird things get more and more and more bizarre. So we're going to try to hold off on the politics to the end of the program. There was and it's going to be, since we're in the 2026 election cycle, we're going to talk about politics. But it's going to be, we'll try to limit it to like the last 10 or 15 minutes of the show. When we do, and if we do a pure political episode, you're going to get a warning. Maybe I got to have a warning there with political content here, because a lot of people are like, it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad. Now, let's start out with something a little bit more fun. We're going to have some bizarre news out here. Well, what do you mean bizarre, Jim? It's going to be bizarre news. Here we go. All right. And there it goes. The camera keeps on moving. I have it like this and just angle it downward. Hold on, everybody. Let me hold on. Let's go into the American flag here for a second while Jim messes with the camera. There it goes. Okay. Okay, there we go. So, all right. Hopefully it'll hold. And I won't have my head cut off. Now, I got to edit all this out. So let's go into some fun news. So here we have, I laugh over this. Right? Raccoon breaks into a liquor store. This is from Fox News. Raccoon breaks into a liquor store, passes out in a bathroom after booze-fueled rampage. So there's another story today that raccoons are getting more and more human-like, and this only backs that up here. Or they're getting more and more domesticated. So here we have, my grandfather said to me one time, never give a dog beer. Blah, 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 blah. So what do you think I did when I was around 19 years old? I gave the dog beer. It wasn't my dog. Snowball wouldn't do so. Guess what? That dog became liked it, and my grandfather warned me. And here we have and now raccoons, right? They're becoming more and more. There's another story, more and more domesticated. And here's a story that really backs it up. People were laughing about that. Raccoon breaks into a liquor store, passes out a bathroom. Officials say the masked bandit, later named Cole, entered the business from the ceiling and took down security cameras. Maybe a professional thief here, right? An inebriated raccoon was taken into custody after allegedly breaking into a Virginia liquor store on Black Friday, partaking in what officials have deemed a liquor-fueled rampage. A trail of smashed liquor bottles led the police to the mass house where there was found passed out in the sploof position on the Ashland's business bathroom floor. So the thing knew to go to the bathroom, right? With that, according to Hanover County Animal Protection and Shelter, in an embarrassing photo shared with authorities, plastered prosenade could be seen lying next to a garbage can and a toilet. Yeah, I've been there myself in my younger days. I'm not going to lie. Town later identified the four-legged intruder as Cole, noting he may need a ride home after the wild weekend. This thing's completely passed out. Officials said police brought the furry bandit to the animal shelter to sober up. After a few hours of sleep and zero signs of injury other than a hangover or two and some maybe poor life choices, he was safely released back into the wild, hopefully having learned that breaking and entering is not the answer. My question is this: what did he go into? What if you were a raccoon, what would your favorite beverage of choice be? I'm guessing something with a lot of sugar there or something. I mean, in a related story, we had a raccoon living in our backyard, and for some reason, God, I'm telling you, God's honest truth there. I know that that's an indicator that it's not true, but it is the truth. The thing goes grooving on my deck every day. I actually got it on. I'm like, what animal? After about a year, I put my security camera out there, and sure enough, it was a raccoon. So who knows? What message is he or she sending me? Especially since I found the raccoon in my garbage can a couple weeks ago, and I let it live. Yeah. That's our bizarre news there. Here you go. Now, today, and this is probably going to take a couple of days to decipher here with this. Some changes in policy. Again, the president had a cabinet meeting that was televised today, roughly about 2 hours and 17 minutes. Some of the highlights include the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, stating that they are going to be redoing the the FAA air traffic controller system, because we're going to upgrade it to fiber optics and invest some money in it. That is, I guess, a good thing. There, the other thing is the driver's licenses for people who can't speak or read English. Right. So there's been a lot of things there. I don't know about what anyone's opinion on this, but I work in multilingual workplaces, and oftentimes we have to have an interpreter. And now with the smart technology out there, so they don't have an interpreter. With that, it's more and more Star Trek, more than you ever believe, with a universal translator there. With everything. I mean, eventually, who knows? If that technology really takes off, which I think it will, I think it's going to revolutionize the workforce and help people communicate better, obviously, and make things safer and more productive, which is what we would like to see. Safe and productive. But, very highly controversial. The numbers for how many people have either quit or have left the industry or have lost their CDL vary. Some say 70. I've seen estimates about 7,500, some up to 42,000. Regardless, even a small change in the drivers is going to impact number of drivers. Is going to impact our economy on this, because everything is just in time. Nothing is just-in-time delivery for everything. No, it's ridiculous. I mean, we end up putting off making purchases earlier rather than putting them off because of just the supply chain. And if you're in the Northeast today, you're feeling it. Why? We have bad weather, and now I got phone calls today. Jimmy, do you know where I can find this? Do you know where I can find this? I'm out of this. I was like, dude, I've been talking about this for 2 months now. If you need winter stuff, you got to get it in October, especially if you have specialized PPE. Well, you're going to be cold. Hopefully, Safety Claus will be coming to town soon with that. Energy. One of the other things that came out today's press conference or cabinet meeting is that they're going to be doing, trying to get gas cheaper here. Here's another bizarre story. Man ate 1,000 sardines in a month and lost 6 pounds and smelled like a fish market. Nick Norwitz lost 6 pounds and said he achieved a dolphin-like omega-3 levels during the experiment. I don't know. It sounds to me like he was trying to get rid of his significant other here. I remember one time, there was a restaurant by us that was more or less one of these Mongolian barbecues. And you go and you mix everything up, and there's no secret. Jimmy likes things spicy, hot and spicy. So I loaded up the dish with all this garlic and ginger and everything else. We had just gotten married and everything else, and we found this restaurant once we moved into our house, and nearby restaurant no longer there anymore. Mongolian barbecue. So what you do is you get your raw food and you bring it behind the counter. And what do? You load it on up with everything, and I loaded up with ginger and garlic, and I'm eating it, and it's delicious. And then we get home, and now we're in bed, and it's at night, and I'm hot, and it's really hot, and I'm sweating, and everything else, and my wife says, "You got to take a shower or something, dude." I said, "What?" She said, "It's coming out of your pores." I was like, really? And yeah, it's coming out. So this guy went full dolphin. He said he had a sardine summer fad. One researcher didn't let that stop him. He drove full dolphin as he was eating 1,000 of the tinned fish in 30 days. So that's like math. That's like 100 sardines a day. You gotta be kidding me. 100 sardines a day. And that's all he ate. So this was like an Atkins kind of diet here. A low carb or no carb, And I don't know, it doesn't list what he did. Was it in sauce? Was it in vinegar? Was it in oil? Was it in water? I don't know. And he tracked his weight, ketones, omega-3 levels, and workout performance. I want to see him deliver on the benefits of fasting without the drawbacks. This is from Nick Norwitz in Boston. So he added, here it is. He added olive oil and MCT oil, a fast-burning fat made from coconut or palm oil, often used to boost focus and metabolism, counter initial feelings of low energy. He also added sulfur electrolytes, maintain hydration, and replace sodium lost during ketosis. Right? Honestly, adding that fat made a world of difference. It's been 4 days since I started adding olive oil, and I just feel great and energetic. At the 4-day mark. He was able to do feats of endurance like you wouldn't believe. And he said his blood looked more dolphin than anything else. So, the main downside that he began to feel was like a fish market. Despite showering, brushing his teeth, and spritzing cologne, just a few days in, his girlfriend told him, "You smell like you're sweating fish." I track kisses as data points, so in a blind fashion, or at least blinded to her, I track kiss frequency. Man, this was in depth. With an emphasis on the window of 4 hours after I had a meal, of sardines. And yes, I did brush my teeth and put on cologne. And honestly, I stopped tracking for 5 days because true to the world, that number plummeted to 0. That was a big downside. Despite that, he's stuck with a diet, occasionally swapping in a non-sardine dinner with friends, usually seafood heavy and low carb to keep his metabolism consistent. Okay. But anyway, what was it? No, it goes into health benefits and things of that nature. You can look it up. I mean, it didn't sound very beneficial to his love life. Why would you do that? I don't know. So, let's take our first break here, and we will be back in a minute. And that is Harsh Reality.
It's Safety Wars with your host, Jim Posel on Safety FM. Get ready to face the harsh reality.
Have you listened or watched the Safety War show? It does stream live on the radio and on the streamers that we have. So if you have not taken a listen to Jim Posel and what the hell he's doing every evening with Safety Wars, I would strongly encourage you to take a view or take a listen, whichever option is available for you, and take a listen to what the hell he has going on. It will take some deep dives into some information that you might be interested in.
In an unpredictable world, one voice rises above the chaos. Meet Jim Posel, a seasoned safety expert who's navigated through some of the most dangerous scenarios, from anthrax, explosive cleanups, disasters, and numerous environmental cleanups, and lived to tell the tale. Now he's bringing his wealth of knowledge, insights, and experiences to you through Safety Wars. From workplace hazards to the hidden dangers in your own home, Jim covers it all with his engaging storytelling. Safety Wars isn't just a podcast, it's your guide to a safer world. Join Jim Posel and become part of the Safety Wars revolution. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts and videos. Safety Wars. Your safety is our mission.
OSHA recordables, catastrophic losses, environmental disasters. You want answers? So do I. This is Jim Posel with Safety Wars.
That's my daddy!
Alright, and now the Department of Labor is updating a lot of these here websites and stuff. So we're going to go right to the press releases for the Department of Labor here. U.S. Labor Department extends contest dates for workplace safety health citation and focuses efforts to address pending complaints. So they're still recovering from the pandemic, from the shutdown. The U.S. Department of Labor's OSHA has resumed normal enforcement operations and is working diligently to continue its mission to ensure safe and healthy working conditions free from unlawful retaliation, while also helping employers reduce job hazards following a lapse in appropriations. So, during the lapse in appropriations, OSHA received safety and health complaints that did not meet criteria for accepted activity and therefore were not processed upon receipt. Now, this is what I'm going to tell everybody to do. You want to bookmark this. Just like during disasters, I always hear, well, the disaster response, OSHA and this and that. And I tell people, look, OSHA is suspended during disasters, major, and oh, really? And, keep those things on file. So here we have another one you should keep on file is this story here with this, right? So you can be ahead of the curve. We try to be ahead of the curve here. So they did not, they had certain criteria that had to be met for enforcement. The agency is now actively addressing the backlog of complaints, which may be processed via an informal inquiry, usually a letter, that means, and OSHA will respond as quickly as possible. Individuals do not need to resubmit their complaints. Now, OSHA has extended the time employers have to respond to citations issued immediately prior to or during the government shutdown. Shutdown days do not count as working days. So you need to start counting from, I believe it was, the 12th or the 14th on that. Right? This would have been nice had they, here you go, the 12th they have here in this. So These contest periods are now extended through December 4th. So if you are an attorney or something like that, probably a good idea to do this, to look this one up here. All right, U.S. Department of Labor extends contest. We already said that. United States sees Mexico's review of alleged denial of rights as Frexenet facility. The U.S. has invoked the Rapid Response Labor Mechanism and the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, to review whether workers at Frexenet de Mexico, located in Esquiel, Montes, Querétaro, Mexico, are being denied the right to freedom of association and collective bargaining. The United States has suspended liquidation of unliquidated entries of goods into this country from Frexenet, manufacture, and still wines. Today's suspended liquidation of wines? Really? That's a good play on words, whoever wrote this. Today's action demonstrates that, so basically, not allowing, denying rights there. U.S. Department of Labor awards $4 million in funding to North Carolina for continued disaster relief jobs, training for those affected by Hurricane Helene. The additional funding provides cleanup and recovery jobs in 38 counties. USDOL today awarded an additional $4 million in funding to support disaster relief jobs and continued employment and training to 4 North Carolina residents affected in September 2024 when Hurricane Helene brought the worst flooding in a century to the area. There. So, in October 2024, the Department's Employment and Training Administration awarded the North Carolina Department of Commerce's Division of Workforce Solutions a national dislocated worker grant of up to $10 million with an initial award of $2 million to support cleanup and recovery activities in 38 counties. And I'm not going to mention all 38 of them here. Now, Project Firewall partnership leads to enhanced federal enforcement against discriminatory hiring practices. U.S. Department of Labor Secretary Lori Chavez de Raymer, I just love saying that name, right? Lori Chavez de Raymer, and Deputy Secretary Keith Sonderling applauded the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission today for taking action to help prevent discrimination against American workers. The EEOC released new and updated educational materials to reaffirm and emphasize legal protections against national origin discrimination, which can include preferring foreign workers by advertising job openings solely open to H-1B visa holders. The EEOC's efforts were a result of the department's recently announced H-1B hiring Project Firewall. Recently, an H-1B enforcement Project Firewall, which aims to safeguard the rights, wages, and job opportunities of highly skilled American workers. I've heard a lot about this over the years here with this thing. I have a very good friend who is a biostatistician who has been out of work for years and ended up having to change careers because of specifically her employer was doing this. And now I heard about this 10 years ago where certain science and career paths, mathematics, statistics, things of that nature are inundated with H-1B visa holders. And part of the reason is that they need to, when you're working with statistics often, it helps for the company's bottom line if everybody can communicate in the same language, the same thinking, the same training, that sort of thing. The bad thing is that you don't get any diversity. And I know I'm not a DEI person per se, but sometimes it helps when you're dealing with statistics and numbers if you do have that diversity type stuff thrown in there. So you get to see other points of view where you might have overlooked things. And according to my friend, that causes problems. Now, we're going to go into this in a little bit in depth here with this, because this is basically it. There's a lot of... hold on, I got to do something here. I'm going to go to this. There's a lot of... problems here, and the way this is being portrayed in the media here. And for whatever reason, right here we have a U.S. Department of Labor proposes more than $1 million fine following workers at a New Jersey vegetable processing facility. Worker fatality here. All right? Here. And a lot of the, I'll be honest with you, right? They don't, since the new administration came in, they're not going into detail here with this. Here on exactly what things happen, but people are finding out. There are agencies, and I don't mean federal agencies or government agencies, but there are news agencies that are going out and getting to the bottom of some of this, but they skip so much stuff, and that's why you tune in here. So this is a local person here, Swedesboro, New Jersey. I'm going to withhold the company name here. There was a, you can see it if you're on screen here, though, because I'm sharing the screen from the government here. In May 2025, OSHA initiated an inspection at a company in Swedesboro, New Jersey. This is a salad company. Inspectors determined that the company, which is a subsidiary of Taylor Fresh, I said it by accident, failed to implement proper lotto procedures. OSHA cited the company for 16 safety violations related to lack of lockout-tagout procedures, as well as failure to implement lockout-tagout requirements or provide training, proposed penalties of an exceedance of $1.1 million. Additionally, another company was there. It was an on-site temporary employment agency, was cited for 3 serious violations and proposed penalties of $33,100. Now, oftentimes for these temp agencies, what happens is they say, well, I am not, I know nothing, I'm just signing labor, guess what, nothing, I'm not responsible for WUFNO, there's no issue here, blah, 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 blah. We all know that that's not true. There's extensive documentation on the OSHA website and elsewhere that, yeah, you are responsible, and OSHA will determine how responsible you are when there's a problem. Essentially, that's when they get, quote-unquote, caught here. Well, guess what? If you're paying them and you are acting as the employer, and you are giving them direction, guess what? They're your employees. You got to give them direction. You're responsible for them. Where it gets murky is when you supply a temporary worker, and now the host employer, right, OSHA terminology, the host employer now directs the work, because now you have an issue here. The host employer is directing the work. Now they are liable, not only OSHA-wise, but also with other liabilities, potentially, depending on where you are, what the situation is, and the employer, right? The employer is also responsible. What amount and everything else, who knows? Now, all of the reports stop here. All right? Now, my question is this. Some of them said willful, some of the reports said willful, some of them said this, some of them said that. OSHA has not updated their establishment search to update the new information here. But what we see here, on the establishment search page, I entered in the employer name, and all, here, let's see how many. For the last 5 years, they had visits from OSHA 20 times. Now, they said this company in New Jersey is a subsidiary of a larger company. I don't know if they're, and I don't have the information here, if they're counting that subsidiary as subsidiary as a one employer. All these 20 different situations that came up. Now, if we look back at this employer back in March of this year, they had some problems. They had $300,000 in fines proposed. Again, these things get reduced and everything else. And here we have all lockout tagout problems here. So here we have a 1910-147 problem. Here is clearly energy control procedures are not clear. In addition to abatement certification, employer is required to submit abatement documentation for this item. Failure to comply will result in an additional penalty of $1,000 in accordance with 1903. Here we have 1910-147 C06. Periodic inspection of the energy control procedure. Right? And now we have here in 147 another one. Energy isolated devices that were needed to control the energy to the machine or equipment were not physically located and operated in such manner to isolate the machine or equipment from the energy sources. For example, in the fruit room, employees did not isolate the Maxwell Chase tomato slicer from all energy sources when unjamming tomato trays from the machine, exposing the employee to a nip point. That was a willful. So first two were serious. That's a willful, $165,000. The first two were $16,550. Then we got another willful, 1910-147 D04. That was zero because it looks like it was included on the previous one. With this, no locks and tags affixed were not used when needed. And we have a repeat one, C07, for $99,300. No training. Authorized personnel did not receive training. And, which was a repeat. And they mentioned another one. Now, this is going to give us a little bit of a thing. So this happened in New Jersey. All right. Here. Right? Well, let's turn back here, right? Let's see here. This was in New Jersey, right? But they reference a 161-2116 citation, right, from 11/22/22. So let's go back here. Oh, there's more. That was only page one for these people. 11/22/22. Looking at 40, I was wrong, 51 different times they got visits from OSHA. Here, if it's assuming it's the same company, which according to this, Chicago, Illinois, here we go. Violation was a serious one, CO71B. Right, same sort of thing. So let's go back to our recent one in New Jersey. Sorry if you're following along on video here. And this one is from here, New Jersey. All right. Reference one in Chicago. So it looks like that this is all the same company, same EIN number, or substantially however they judge this, to make this into a repeat violation. Pretty, yeah, 22. California, Illinois, right here, yeah. 1612116. And boom. 121. Yeah, that is the same company according to this, what I'm interpreting here on the website. So what's my point here? What is the point? And some of this is done in real time, as always, on Safety Wars, everything else. What's my point here? Every one of these here, right? Every one of these violations we see here, right? And this was done by the state of the state. This is another one from California, from Cal OSHA. Basically, even though it doesn't happen in your own office, so let's say you have an office in New Jersey and you have another problem in another state, they can count that as a repeat violation. This is what I suspect, and often this is what happens here. Companies do not share information with each other. So, for example, you have a company with a multiple office location. Each office doesn't share information, and on top of that, not only do they not share information, there's a high turnover rate, and people do not go there. This is the advantage of, whether your employer pays for it or not, attending a Safety Wars outreach training program here that we teach here. This is the advantage of it. You get to look up all this stuff, and here we have the same employer, multiple states doing the same crap over and over again, and eventually what happened was they got caught, and unfortunately somebody had to die. Someone had to die to get their attention. $1.1 million fine. I mean, who the hell? I don't know. Where's their safety department? Are they like short-termers, or do they not have a safety department? I don't know. That's my question here. Now, the other thing is this. Let's say you're working on a project, and you have whatever you want to call them, subcontractors, trade partners, other companies coming on. If you're the safety professional, are you going on the establishment search page and looking up stuff? Because I recently had the situation where I looked up somebody, and they came, I was a done deal, they were there already. I came in later on the project. And I said to their, I took him on the side, I was nice, I had a nice cup of coffee, we had some coffee, and he had some cookies, he had, Oreo cookies, we all know Oreo cookies here, they're gold here, right? And I said to him, dude, did they tell you? I said, you're not a new employee here. Did they tell you all the problems they had with OSHA like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Says, Jimmy, no. What problems did they have? So I showed him the sound, and I said, they paid the thing. I said, aren't they like making this like a, what do you call an emphasis here? Because they get whacked with a repeat violation here, they're going to have a problem. I said, he says, well, what do I need to do to be compliant that we're not doing? So I laid out all the things that he could do. We helped with him, worked with him, helped him get compliant. He said, you know what? Thank God you're telling me this stuff. I said, yeah, because your next job is in New York, isn't it? He says, yeah. I said, well, in New York, you're the designated competent person, right? He says, yeah. So you really got to... you really gotta look. You really gotta watch out here, dude. He says, why? I said, because we have Carlos's law in New York, and if you have, you're supposed to know this. The company's supposed to communicate with you fall protection issues. Do you have a problem with fall protection, a fatality, catastrophic issue, or something? You're maybe on the look because you're the competent person. He says, oh, wow, isn't it amazing how the companies don't tell me that? And don't ever tell people that. I was like, yeah, not amazing. It is what it is. I mean, it sucks. All right. And what else we got here? Right. Let's go on over. Now, no, we're going to go overtime, but I'm still going to talk about politics. We're going to go over here. We haven't been here for a week. There's a lot of stuff going on. Tomorrow, assuming we're going to be on the air, we're going to talk about what's it called? EPA. All right. So we're going to head on over to one of our other favorite websites here, Study Finds. Here, and there are a couple of studies. Happen here now. They're announcing this is from Study Finds, and the research they report on is led by Robert Jackson and Yanni Kashtan from Stanford University. Here. So, gas ranges for 22 million Americans over nitrogen dioxide guidelines. Electric adds none. So, in New York recently, they put in a policy, a law, to get rid of gas ranges. So guess what? They apparently rescinded that here, which is, I don't know, because for years we were told, oh, we got to have clean fuels. And the clean fuels are gas, so everybody went from to gas from electric, and if you're in a commercial kitchen, there's very rarely do you ever see electric here being used. They use gas. 22 million Americans, in a nutshell, 22 million Americans would drop below World Health Organization nitrogen dioxide safety limits. They switch from gas to electric cooking, according to the first nationwide study mapping both indoor and outdoor nitrogen dioxide as NO2 exposures. Gas stoves account for roughly 25% of total residential nitrogen dioxide exposure for people who use them, and more than half the exposure for households that cook most intensely. Electric stoves emit zero nitrogen dioxide, but we don't have electrical capacity. That's the other thing. For everybody to switch over. I know we switched over. My mother never had a gas stove. She always had electric. Since we lived in Woodridge, Carteret, we had gas. One of the reasons being was that the electric stoves were, and this was an old one from the late 1958, and it lasted until almost 2000. It was, we couldn't get parts anymore. Self-cleaning, which she loved, and the other thing was my father had severe asthma growing up, and he tried to eliminate all indoor air quality issues the best he could, and this was one of them. Gas stoves cost 7 to 15 days per year when household air exceeds used hourly nitrogen oxide guideline. So, basically, what it comes down to, what happens? Electric stoves, gas propane stoves generate enough of the lung irritant to account for roughly a quarter of total residential exposure. So nitrogen dioxide, again, gas stoves, like my father, triggers asthma attacks. He had severe asthma, worsens chronic lung disease, and linked to preterm births and other health issues. Well, outdoor concentrations from vehicle exhaust and power plants get tracked nationwide through satellites and ground monitors through the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, right, the NACS. The pollution people generate inside their own kitchens has been invisible. So, what is, and it's an extremely low exposure limit that WHO puts out an exposure guideline of 5.2 parts per billion. That's with a B, billion. Which, so, we'll see what happens. New York's wealthy warn of attack. I mentioned this. This is from Christabel Young from Cornell University. New York's wealthy warn of attack success after Mamdani's win, but the data says otherwise. That's what I mentioned with Paul Danielczak last week. New York's mayor-elect Zohar Mamdani campaigned on promise to raise the city's income tax. So everybody warned, but guess what? Hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman claimed that both the city's business and wealthy residents have already started making arrangements. But, and Kathy Hochul said the same thing, and so did Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Lewa and everybody else. Right, I researched whether high, and this is from the author, high earners actually move when their taxes go up. My colleagues will analyze millionaire taxes in New Jersey and California, migration of Forbes millionaires globally, and decades of IRS data tracing where Americans with $1 million incomes live. Top owners, often thought as mobile millionaires, are ever searching for lower tax bases to live. In reality, they're often reluctant to leave the places where they built their careers and raised their families. Again, these higher tax bases, I'm going to say it as it is. If you have a special needs child, you're probably going to get better service in these higher tax states. The way it is here. At the same time, there are grains of truth that tax migration arguments. So it's important to do this. Now, I had this. We had this conversation around the dinner table, Thanksgiving, and what I always tell people, it's a lagging indicator here, but U-Haul and Ryder trucks, one-way rentals, they release the numbers. Those are the ones who tell who's moving out, because you got to rent a U-Haul or Ryder truck to get, and I'm not giving them a plug, I'm just telling you. That's how they get, they release that data, and that's how you know where people are moving from and where they're moving to with that. And also, I tell you what, New York is even more of a problem, and nobody mentions this because, very well, not nobody, I know about it. Move out of New York and be a high-income earner. There are media personalities that do that, and there was even an article in the Wall Street Journal about 2 years ago about this, where New York does not want to see you go. And if they can prove that you were in New York during a Monday through Friday business day, they are going to charge you a per diem rate. So people have moved out of New York, millionaires and everything, New York State and New York City, and guess what? You want to go back on, during the day, you take a week off, vacation, but your office is still there, right? Then what happens is you go into New York, and they want to charge you a per diem rate on your income tax. So whatever that is. So you go to New York, hey, you're on vacation, want to go home, you have a family member dying in New York who died, you go to the funeral, you have to go in there for whatever. Guess what? You go into New York, they can prove you were in New York either through Easy Pass, through a credit card charge, through citing, so you're a celebrity. Hey, you're on page 6, and you're like, or you're in the New York Post or something, you're there. Oh, look at this. Jim Polzel, the safety warrior, was in New York City. Guess what? We're going to whack him with a per diem rate on there. And it's a problem. And there are lawsuits. People, big names, have taken a better part of a decade to clear this up and fight it out in court and everything. And not there, right? So when millionaires do move, it rarely appears to be for tax reasons. For example, Florida is the top destination for New York movers in general, but among the richest 1% of New Yorkers, the top destination is Connecticut, followed by New Jersey and California, all three of which levy a millionaire tax. So, again, where you built your career, where your family is, things of that nature. With that, laughing gas. Here we go, another one. Another nitrous oxide. Here, another story. I probably should have did this then. Is artificial laughter really the best medicine? Nitrous oxide, nitrogen dioxide, nitrous oxide ease depressive symptoms within 12 to 24 hours of several early trials. Single sessions help briefly, repeated sessions show stronger and longer lasting effects. Side effects are mild and everything else. Okay, so this is it's an antidepressant and everything else. And this is a study from eBiomedicine here. This is what the thing is. Jimmy's right with that. Depression is a very serious thing. Extremely serious. I get it. Now, with depression here. But how about getting to the roots of causes of what that depression is if you can? Because it seems like you're depressed, you're a little bit blue. This is what this session is. Where we're going here. Oh, you don't feel good? You don't do this? Oh, here, have some medical marijuana. Take that. You feel, here's some laughing gas. Now we're going to have laughing gas clinics eventually. So, and then we're going to have those. Oh, you're feeling with a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now we're going to go, you're going to have a reliance on alcohol. How about we have that? And it goes on and on and on and on. I'm not saying that don't take depressants. I'm not antidepressant. I'm not saying that. But I find it unusual that a lot of this stuff is out there as our society, up to a point, this continues to break down. I hate to put it that way. Society seems to be breaking down, and we're encouraging more and more of things that alter people's reality and perception. Right? And over the counter, too. I'm sure this is going to be over the counter. Just like now cannabis in some places, or marijuana is now over the counter. Things that, I don't know. This doesn't sit well with me with this. If you're not under a doctor's care with this, eventually you're going to have an issue here. And then what happens when you don't have access to it? You create a problem too. So, I don't know. I have a lot of experience with family members and friends who are on antidepressants and with that who have been on antidepressants. One of my friends, recently she hit menopause. And she, hit what they used to call back in the day, the changes, right? The infamous the changes. And she said to me, Jim, people talk to me all the time. Hey, Jim, I'm not feeling it, blah, 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 blah. I'm this, I'm that, blah, blah, blah. Doctor would have put her on antidepressants. And the doctor put her on that antidepressants, and then she went to an endocrinologist that specializes in the changes, as we used to call them. And it was a female endocrinologist. I think that helped. I'm not saying women should only go to women doctors, but most of my doctors are women. They have a different outlook on things and a different perspective. And maybe with a woman who has gone through menopause herself, different perspective on what you're going through. A little bit more empathy. And she says, I don't think you need to be on antidepressants, but it sounds like you're having a hormonal imbalance. So let's try to balance out your hormones a little bit. And doctor put on hormones. I'm not going to mention medication. 6 months later, totally back to what she was 20 years ago. Mental outlook, healthy-wise. She says, I lost a little weight, I learned things out, blah, 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 blah. Again, there was a medical issue. Are we not investigating them? Are we just saying, well, I feel depressed, so I got to do this? And it went down to a acquaintance of mine where he had he was a retired firefighter, had the best insurance money could buy through the Jersey City Fire Department, and he was on a prescription for medical marijuana. And he said, it's just got to be sleep. And just sleep. That's what I said, look, maybe you should get the cause of the problem why you can't sleep. Oh, no, I take this, I can take a couple of hits of this. Turned out he died a horrific death. What he wasn't telling anybody was this. He was on medical marijuana rather than going out and getting diagnosed. He died a horrible death from a preventable illness. So that's what we got for tonight. We're going to be moving on into hour 2 of Safety Wars. and which we haven't had in a long time here. So we will see you on hour 2, and that's it. So we're going to put a pause for your Safety FM people, and we're going to continue on the other end.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
Stay tuned for hour 2. Recently, we haven't gotten into it, but I'm all amped up. We haven't been on the air here. So for hour 2, we go into politics. We go into things that are a little bit more controversial, sort of like with Jay Allen on the Rated R Safety Show on the flagship program on Safety FM and Radio Big. No, he goes into different topics and different questions, and also gives music. I don't know. Eventually, I'm planning on releasing an album here with all the music of Safety Wars, and we'll figure things out from there. No, going on from there with that. So, all right. Now, all right. Now we're there. Okay. I don't even know how to start here with the politics. So there was a lot of stuff going on here today with the news conference and everything else, I should say the cabinet meeting that the president held. I think that we're going to be going into that later on. But one of the things, that's been out there has been the long-term effects of COVID, right? My opinion was mismanaged from day one. I've been screaming since the anthrax cleanups in October 2001. We're not prepared for this. And then it caught on later on. We're not prepared for this. We're not prepared for this. We're not prepared for a whole cacophony of voices. We could go out there. And what happened in 2019? And what's even scarier is that people had predicted the pandemic was going to hit. First starting with a superbug of the flu, late 2000s, and then later on they said the powers that be, there would be another superbug out there, and it turned out to be COVID. Coincidence or not, I don't know. Glitch in the matrix here with everything. So here we have something else, right? And I remember when I was about 12 or 13 years old, early 1980s, we were told that the rainforests were being destroyed in Central and South America, specifically Brazil. There was even an article, an album by Roger McGuinn, early 90s, The Trees Are All Gone, with that, right? I'm calling from Rio de Janeiro, that sort of thing. I forget the whole album, but it had a whole bunch of good songs on their collaborations with Tom Petty, as memory serves me right. And, right, anyway, the big thing, that was an example and everything else. But what could you do? You could go out and, rather than get paper products, we're going to go and we're going to have this revolution, and we're going to use plastic bags. And we are going to also go out there, and we're also going to go to a paperless society, so we don't have to cut down trees. And we also are going to go to all this other stuff. And what do you think happened? Now we're dealing with a microplastic problem all over the place. So trees are a renewable resource. Plastic, if you're a believer in the abiotic oil theory, which might have a lot of truth, again, oil is a renewable thing. So here we have all this microplastic pollution and everything else. Now with COVID, with the mask mandates and the disposable masks here, we might have another issue. So this is, again, from studyfinds.org, reviewed by John Ander, researched by Jiu Ho, Zhejiang Normal University. What's an abnormal university? I don't know. Scientists converted discarded medical masks into carbon quantum dots that help break down PET plastic found in bottles and packaging. The mass-derived catalysts broke down nearly 40% of pre-treated plastic particles in 6 hours. They worked even better in seawater than fresh water. Plastic needs energy-intensive pretreatment before the system can work on it. The process transformed two environmental problems, mass waste and microplastic pollution, into a potential solution while producing chemical building blocks that can be reused. So this is a good thing here. Remember, all those disposable masks we went through during the pandemic, billions of them ended up in landfills. I'm still finding them all over the freaking place where I go. Right? I carry around nitrile gloves so I can pick this stuff up and do my part in cleaning up the environment. Right? Scientists in China have devised a tool capable of breaking down plastic pollution with the help of those masks, offering a novel way to turn that pandemic trash into something useful. Researchers discovered they could transfer discarded medical masks into tiny particles called carbon quantum dots. When mixed with a couple of other materials, these dots create a substance that can decompose PET plastic, the stuff used in water bottles, food containers, and synthetic clothing. After 6 hours under a strong UV lamp, their mass-based mixture broke down nearly 40% of the pre-treated plastic particles they tested. Might not sound like total destruction, but again, it helps, right, to do. So, what they did, they cut up waste masks, soaked the pieces in alcohol, and heated everything to 200 degrees Celsius for 12 hours. That's 414 degrees Fahrenheit, 1415 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, serves me right. Something like 214. For something like that. Out came these glowing blue carbon dots. Mix those with two other compounds, shine some light on the whole thing, and suddenly you got a plastic eating machine. It was published in Acta Psycho, right? So I tell you what, I guess you could, I wonder if you can run it through multiple times. That would be my question. Again, good thing here, right? And now, here's our other question. This is a little bit more complicated, but this has to be, hold on. This is the other thing here, right? did the U.S. commit a war crime in the Caribbean? Here's what we know. And this is from CNN. The U.S. military has killed 83 people and counting in unprecedented military attacks. And again, Hegseth denies knowing anything, and apparently everything is being blamed on a Navy admiral. We'll have more information on Thursday when Congress looks into this. No, they may clear things up. So they're calling this. The Washington Post reported last week that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave an order to kill. I don't know if this is true or not. He's saying this is not true. The military carried out a double-tap strike after the vessel was apparently disabled and feared. There were two still student survivors on board. And in military terms, this means the double tap could be practice of following an initial attack with a second strike. Now, I did a little bit of research here because this sounded something familiar. What's the legal justification for this? And I'm not justifying any of this from the administration at all. Let me put it out there. But one of our superpowers here on Safety Wars, right, for the safety warrior, is to try to see the other side, right? So, what happens? There is a thing, and this started out probably a long time ago, but when they first started to publicize that, they do, and the they is the government and the military, things of that nature, and not only the U.S. military. Signature strike, they call it. And that's the legal justification that they use. So what's the signature strike? This is the exact term used for U.S. drone strikes based on patterns of behavior rather than confirmed identity. A signature refers to a set of behaviors, right? Carrying weapons, meeting with known militants, travel patterns, in this case, drugs. Apparently drugs, that suggests someone is an insurgent or hostile actor. It was used extensively in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. Targets are chosen based on behavioral indicators, not necessarily knowing their names. Maybe if we remember this, not knowing that, right? This seems like what's going on with ICE, with at least some of these raids. People are getting wrapped up in here with things. A similar construct. Why is it controversial? Innocence. Right? People are innocent. So what do they try to do? Daily movements, associates, communications, observed activities, location patterns, right? They use all this stuff. A broader military intelligence term means that the actor is targeted because of an observed behavior, not declared affiliation. What's that used for? Behavior-based targeting. It's used for special operations, maritime interdictions. I think blowing up suspected drug boats would qualify at that. Counterterrorism in the Caribbean and Latin America. There's been some reports out there from what I've read. Again, unable to verify this, that this whole thing going down in Venezuela has very little to do with drugs, and it does have to do with other things going on down there. Cyber operations with that. Those generally classified under counter-narcotics, right? What are we talking about? There's in the Caribbean, right? There are generally classified under counter-narcotics operations or counter-transnational organized crime, but targeting based on behavior still falls under the umbrella of behavior-based targeting. When did this start? The origins were under George W. Bush in 2000, right here after 9/11, and it was in 2008, the Bush administration, under the CIA, started experimenting with targeting based on patterns of behavior to see if it would work. They went after Pakistan's tribal regions, right, and then Taliban and Al Qaeda fighters. So these are all highly classified, limited in scope, and considered experimental, and often conducted by the CIA rather than the military. It was expanded under Barack Obama 2009 to 2016, as a reminder, is when he was in office. So, major changes was that authorized signature strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia allowed targeting based on pattern of life analysis and created the disposition matrix, a system for identifying threats. Increased drone strikes from fewer than 50 under Bush to several hundred per year at its peak. Obama was risk-averse to U.S. troop casualties. We all remember this. We lived through this. And favored drones as a low-cost, low-risk alternative to ground combat. But what were the controversies? Hitting groups of military-aged males without confirmed identity, collateral casualties, illegal questions about due process, including for U.S. citizens. And then Obama had some imposed some stricter resistance and everything else, and the program did not end. Under the Trump administration, it allowed and transferred some of the loosened some of the restrictions, but allowed commanders a little bit more autonomy and reduced reporting requirements. Expanded strikes in Somalia dramatically, right? And there was less oversight. According to most sources out there, I don't know that to be true or not. I'm just going by what I have read and what I've looked up in this. So under the Biden administration, it was suspended for review and then reinstated similar to Obama-era stuff, and shifted many operations back to high-level approval only. And why do they have that? Right? Terrorist networks operate anonymously, right? CIA had expansive surveillance but limited human intelligence and political pressure to avoid U.S. troop casualties. All this is right. Again, very little risk for Blue Water Navy to go out and target this stuff from way out there, is my understanding. So, again, lower risk. Why are we doing it? More Americans are killed from drugs than were in terrorist attacks. It's basically it. And with that, so again, are the drug fatalities coming from illicit drugs from Venezuela? Yeah, they are. However, Mexico, stuff coming up from Mexico, right, kills more people because of the fentanyl. And let me tell you, there is not a family out there that has not been affected by this.
From the front lines of the safety war.
And again, we're doing the harsh reality
on Safety FM.
with this. So let's take a brief break with some commercials here, and we'll go from there. So.
Can't let it choke. Don't rock the safety boat. Keep it smooth, keep it afloat. Dance all night but don't provoke. Don't rock the safety boat. Don't rock the safety boat. Feet tapping fast, decks getting slick. Moonlight flashing shadows play their trick. Hold the line, baby, don't let it split. One wrong move and we're in the thick. Ooh, steady hand, steady heart. Don't let the rhythm fall apart. Don't rock the safety boat. Keep it smooth, keep it afloat. boat. Don't rock the safety boat. Don't rock the safety boat. Don't rock the safety boat. Shake it loose but hold the rails. Cruise so hard it tips the scales. Feel the beat beneath your feet, but don't let it knock you off your seat.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all three books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
All right, so we're going to get into something I've never touched here. However, I've read this here. For this. I've read the, and it's not available here on, behind the paywall and everything else here. So, University of Oklahoma, OU, right? There was an assignment, apparently in an advanced psychology course, where a student, Samantha Fulmecki, was given a assignment. It was like a reactions thing. Here, read this article. Let me know what you think about it. 650 words or more, and it was worth 25 points. I don't know how much of a grade this would be worth. And the instructor gave her a 0 out of 25 and is now on administrative leave because it was the assignment was reacting to how people are perceived based on a societal expectation of gender. I'm not going to go into the whole thing here. And basically, the woman argued, the young lady argued for traditional roles. And apparently, right, and I guess we all fell into the trap with the people I dealt with back in the late 80s, early 90s, where you're trying to go and figure things out for yourself, right? Right. But the thing is, you have a problem expressing yourself. Very difficult. And remember, when you're dealing with a professor, even in this case was apparently a graduate assistant of some sort, name of the Mel Kurth, who is involved, right, is and it mentions this gender roles in society, and it does matter to this story where this was a transgendered professor who had obviously strong opinions. Everyone's opinion, right? And this student had called had been very critical of people who are identify as transgender. She got a 0 out of 25. Now, on the surface, that's how it was reported. Was she got this, and it was this, and evil and demonic, and this and that, and the teacher got upset because, or the instructor, professor got upset because this was took offense to it. And after reading the essay, I don't know if she deserved a 0. However, the professor knew that there was going to be a problem, wrote a thing, hey, look, this is supposed to be about empirical data, critical thinking, and everything else, and you're not really showing that in your essay. And I don't know the whole context here, what all the other assignments were, but I have a tendency, big shock here, we're going to shock everybody. I have to agree with the professor on an empirical level. And I've taught at universities, at a university. So this is not really what's a well-written, well-explained essay here. And if they were looking for empirical data and everything else and critical thinking, meaning A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, and then a conclusion, that's... I think the essay was lacking in that, my opinion. Now, often what happens, right, these graduate assistants go and they give things to their supervisor or to a colleague, and they say, well, look, is this really, now, what do you think about this? Another professor concurred on this, that she did not meet the assignment. I don't know if I would have given her a 0, but it wouldn't have been a 25 out of 25. So, with that, and no, it's available online behind a paywall on the Oklahoman website. But if you're going to go and you're going to, right? She said, well, they used the Bible. This could have been This could have been written a little bit differently. So, look, people tend, right, especially in undergraduate school, and I assume that this young woman is about 20, 21, 19, in that age range, you're still figuring things out. You're not going to be able to articulate things. And part of the reasons why, most people, one of the reasons why you go to college is to learn to articulate things. And I don't feel that her essay didn't really articulate something. So what I would have done, how would Jimmy have written this? I would have said, and I didn't read, they don't link the original article. They were supposed to comment on it, at least as far as I can concern. One, people believe certain things because of often a religious upbringing, or what your socioeconomic group is, or whatever. And they use this to justify what that is, whether we agree with it or not. It could be the Bible, it could be the Quran, it could be the Torah, it could be any number of religious texts that are out there. All right, and that's the norm for that group of people. And right, and with it, and then she could have built on that type of a situation and citing perhaps other things and empirical data. It's very hard to write a 650-word essay on that. And this is what the beliefs are, and go on and have a logical argument. I don't think that really did that with that. And I'm going to be watching this and see how this goes on there with that. And again, if you're going to be a professor or you're going to be a teacher, you have to be fair. The proper way of doing the investigation, Jimmy's opinion, would have been to go and get everybody's papers, everybody's assignments in that class, and see what kind of other arguments were out there. That's how you do an investigation. Find out what the other arguments, what everybody else did, and what were their scores. And maybe, A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. were those cogent arguments? What kind of arguments were they having? And I think that's where the investigation needs to go to be truly fair with that. And it just irks me that nobody, it's gotten to the point, regardless of what your opinion is on transgender policy, right? You have to go out there and you have to put up logical arguments. So, and this is unfortunately where the right wing often fails. Now, what's going on now is this tribalism and everything, which is the same thing, and it's happening on both sides. Where you have people on the left that are unhinged, on some of this stuff, going along with the crowd and everything else. But you have people on both sides doing this. They're unhinged. And these are the people who are screaming and yelling rather than going out and discussing things. I think if we go all discuss things and have a dialogue and be reasonable, we would not have these issues here. And everybody likes that. No, there's reasons for tribalism and everything. Is because it gets the adrenaline going and you feel good and and all those feel good chemicals in your brain. And what I'm saying is you got to resist that. You're not going to be a strong person if you don't resist that. And there are appropriate times where you have to do that, but not every freaking day. We're going to drive ourselves nuts here. Okay. What else? Mm-hmm. Again, do your research, do your homework on all this stuff. Here on this, right? So this is from the Epoch Times. Michael and Susan Dell pledged $6.25 billion to seed Trump accounts for 25 million children. The gift will fund $250 in deposits for children aged 10 and under who were born prior to the January 21st, 2025 qualifying date to receive $1,000 from the government. So, again, give people a little bit of a nest egg. Right? Hopefully you can put it in high interest things. So, again, billionaires Michael and Susan Dell have pledged $6.25 billion to help 25 million American children open up newly created investment accounts under President Donald Trump's Invest in America initiative. The Dell's gift, announced today, will fund $250 deposit. We just mentioned this. And intended to encourage families to activate a new child investment accounts authorized under Trump signatures One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And it is expected to reach nearly 80% of American children aged 10 and under across 75% of the zip codes. All accounts are professionally managed and invested in diversified index funds designed to grow over time. Children born on or after January 1st will automatically receive $1,000 treasury deposit at birth. Again, while families and community members may contribute $5,000. So this is like a 529 program that's opened up to everything. Again, investing in the children a little bit. So let's go into some of the other, I don't know about that. So, have you heard about this one? Here we have Sean Duffy. He urges passengers to dress better and be more polite while flying during the busiest Thanksgiving ever. This is from last week. Ever see the pictures of people flying in the 1960s, 1950s, early 1970s? People are dressed to the nines getting on a plane when they're traveling. What do you see today? Nowadays? Well, they I would have appreciated people even fire retardant clothing, but that's me. Right? Another safety thing. Well, that's often what I wear. The Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy urged, the fashionable ones, not the coveralls. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy urged the public to be more polite and more nice to retire during the busiest Thanksgiving travel thing. There is a Department of Transportation launch of a civility campaign. Duffy rallied against rowdy passengers to take off their shoes on flights and put their bare feet up on the chair, ahead of them, calling the public to be cognizant and courteous. We've seen maybe a degradation in civility in the airspace, Duffy told reporters. I think you don't get a better result unless you ask for it. So encouraging that. Again, here, and I see this when I flight. Let's try not to wear slippers and pajamas as we come here. If we can help someone as we get on the aircraft that might need help putting their bag in an overhead bin, you're a little stronger, a little buffer. You've been lifting, stand up and offer to grab that bag and put it up for someone. Yeah, I do that all the time. Again, this is the Catholic school upbringing I had. Catholic high school, which is where I was last Tuesday, for the reunion. So they felt that if you're dressed professionally, we were dressed what we would now call business casual for everything, you get better behavior out of people, and people take learning a little bit more seriously. Maybe some of the same types of things, and you see this in out there, right? Look at me, safety worse. I know, I'm wearing the shirt, but I don't know, maybe it's a whole thing. Maybe they had a point in Catholic school. Anyway, that's what I got for tonight. We'll be doing more stuff. We'll be doing like EPA updates on the next thing. So, for Safety Wars, this is Jim Polzel, and I will catch you later in the week.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.